Want to see more cool videos on our channel? We do, so press this bell and enable to send notifications.
Colourful travel might conjure up images of larger-than-life street murals or pastel towns, but when it comes to truly unique and vibrant spectacles, nature displays the most awe-inspiring moments. Whether it's thanks to bioluminescence, annual migration patterns, or just heavy rainfall, these phenomena can often be devilishly tricky to predict, and timing your trip to catch a glimpse can be unpredictable. Number 10. Wave of locusts. Weeks before the coronavirus spread through much of the world, parts of Africa were already threatened by another kind of plague, the biggest locust outbreak some countries had seen in 70 years. Now, the second wave of the voracious insects, some 20 times the size of the first, is arriving. Billions of the young desert locusts are winging in from breeding grounds in Somalia in search of fresh vegetation springing up with seasonal rains. It's the locusts that everyone is talking about, said Yoweri Aboket, a farmer in Uganda. Once they land in your garden, they do total destruction. Some people will even tell you that the locusts are more destructive than the coronavirus. There are even some who don't believe that the virus will reach here. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization has called the locust outbreak, caused in part by climate change, an unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods. The UN has raised its aid appeal from $76 million to $153 million, saying immediate action is needed before more rainfall fuels further growth in locust numbers. So far, the FAO has collected $111 million in cash or pledges. Number 9. Narcisse snake dens. Canada usually seems like such a non-scary place. The pristine lakes, the gentle manners, the political tolerance, the free-flowing sorries. It's not exactly a place you'd think would be teeming with snakes just below the surface. And that's true, as long as you don't hang out in Narcisse, Manitoba. Every spring and autumn, the largest congregation of snakes anywhere in the world is found in this area, drawing visitors from across the globe. For between 1 and 3 weeks at a particular spot along Highway 17, tens of thousands of red-sided garter snakes make their way above ground from inside the fissures in the limestone, looking for mates. They congregate in rocky pits, weaving together to form vast, living, moving tapestries of snakes that can be as wide as 20 feet across. The mass of snakes is clearly audible, between the hissing and the sound of scales rubbing together. When they're finished with their business in the spring, the garters split from their dens along the highway to nearby wetlands for the summer to bask in the sunshine, and then return to Narcisse in the fall to slither back underground and do it all over again. Number 8. Raining birds. In a small town in Arkansas, USA, the locals were just carrying about their day, doing very mundane things, until suddenly, in 2012, the whole town witnessed something rather unusual. It started raining ravens. Dead ravens, obviously, but it was raining birds. It rained over 5,000 dead blackbirds in the early hours of New Year's Day in 2012. What is the craziest thing about that? This wasn't the first time it had happened. It was the second time. We don't know if it happened a third time since then, but if it did, I wonder what the locals would think then. Number 7. Monarch butterfly migration. While animal migration in general remains mysterious, the migration pattern of the monarch butterfly is particularly noteworthy. The study of the migrations of this strikingly coloured orange and black creature has led to remarkable theories and a few puzzling questions. The bulk of monarchs residing east of the Rocky Mountains fly to a specific region in the mountains of central Mexico. Somewhere between 100 million to 150 million butterflies travel this route each fall. The monarchs remain at these overwintering sites until the following spring when they return north. The timing of this annual migration is theorized to be linked to changes in the amount of daylight that begin to occur at this time of year. The variability of day and night temperatures that take place in late August and September probably also help trigger the migrations to Mexico. Why they like this part of Mexico is apparent. The forested locations in the mountains provide an ideal climate for overwintering. The big mystery in this process is, how do monarchs find the same site each year? The lifespan of a monarch butterfly is only 6 months, which means that each new generation of butterflies migrates without an older generation to lead the way. How do they end up at the same locations year after year? One theory is that monarchs use the Earth's magnetic field to guide them to this specific area. Another theory is that they're guided by the polarization of the sun's rays. Scientists had come up with so many theories, but the mystery still remains. Number 6. Cocooned trees. In 2010, 10 years' worth of rainfall poured into Pakistani cities and villages in less than a week, completely ravaging the affected areas. An unexpected side effect of the flooding in parts of Pakistan has been that millions of spiders climbed up into the trees to escape the rising floodwaters. Because of the scale of the flooding and the fact that the water has taken so long to recede, many trees have become cocooned in spiders' webs. Spiders have built massive webs on trees, turning them into ghostly cocoons. Such a phenomenon has never been seen before. Number 5. Red crab migration. Once a year, something incredible happens on Christmas Island. Around 50 million red crabs are estimated to live on Christmas Island, located in the Indian Ocean off the northwestern coast of Australia, which it is a part of. Between October and December, at the beginning of the wet season, these animals start an incredible journey across the island, leaving their homes in the inland to go to the seaside and lay their eggs. The migration begins when adult crabs leave their burrows in the dense jungle and walk to the beach, dipping in the ocean to replenish body salts. Male crabs dig burrows in the sand which they defend from other crabs while they try to mate with the females, then migrate back home while the females stay with their eggs. After 2 to 3 weeks, the female crabs put their eggs into the ocean and start their own return journey, while the eggs hatch into the water as larvae. The tiny creatures turn beaches red before slowly progressing across the island, crossing roads and meandering around houses until they link up with the adults. 4 years later, the crabs are ready to make their own migration to the beach to mate and begin the life cycle all over again. All phases of the migration are popular tourist attractions, with visitors timing their travel to coincide with it to see the unique sight, as the crabs only live on Christmas Island. Number 4. Murmurations. Individually, a European starling is little more than a common blackbird. They're practically everywhere. More than 200 million are in North America alone, singing their chirpy little songs and becoming to many backyard growers and full-time farmers a bit on the pesty side. Collectively though, starlings transform into something else entirely. Together in flight, in mesmerizing flocks that sometimes number in the hundreds of thousands, they're a breath-stealing wonder, a pulsating, swooping, living, harmonized whole, seemingly defying the laws of nature while defining nature itself. In the 1930s, famed ornithologist Edmund Selous suggested that the birds moving in murmurations were using some sort of telepathy to transmit their flying intentions. They must think collectively, all at the same time, a flash out of so many brains, he wrote in his book Thought Transference, or What, in Birds. As the years wore on, we found out that that's not quite it. In the 1950s, scientists studying insects and fish and other collective animal behavior posited that group movement is more of a stunningly fast response to others in the flock rather than some innate mind-reading ability or a command from the group leader. Number 3. Beached fish or not. Speaking of raining weird creatures, on New Year's Eve in Norway, people are singing, eating, drinking, making merry and all that, and the fish from the sea decided they didn't want to be left out of these celebrations anymore and basically beached themselves on a long stretch of coast in northern Norway. An estimated 20 tons of fish just beached there. We say estimated because before officials could even make a proper count and begin clean-up operations, the fish just upped and vanished. No one has any idea what happened to cause such a massive amount of obviously dead fish to just completely disappear. Number 2. Whale suicides. The short-finned pilot whale is a large species of dolphin with a dark grey body and a bulbous head. It's an intensely social animal that spends its life in the company of animals, and that sadly is also how it sometimes dies. In 2018 March, around 150 short-finned pilot whales stranded themselves at Hamlin Bay, a site on Australia's western coast, around 200 miles south of Perth. Trained staff and volunteers had hauled 6 survivors back into the sea, but their fate is still uncertain. Rescued whales often restrand themselves, and nightfall will make their movements harder to track. Western Australia is no stranger to mass whale strandings. 9 years ago to the day, 80 long-finned pilot whales, a closely related species, stranded themselves in the very same spot. 3 years ago, again almost to the day, around 20 long-finned pilot whales washed up at Bunbury, about 70 miles to the north. And those incidents pale in comparison to the largest mass stranding ever documented in the region. This isn't a uniquely Australian problem. New Zealand's Farewell Spit is a notorious whale trap where pilot whales regularly strand. Up to 650 long-finned pilot whales beached there last February, of which 400 or so were saved. Cape Cod is another hotspot and sees an average of 226 stranded whales and dolphins every year. Given this long history, it's unclear if these events have become any more frequent of late, or if they're just easier to spot in an interconnected world. Still, there is something deeply unsettling about mass strandings. Cetaceans, the group that includes whales and dolphins, are highly intelligent and beautifully adapted to life in the water. Why would they leave the aquatic world to risk death? And why do so many of them do so at the same time? No one really knows. There's a multitude of hypotheses and few firm answers. Number 1. Sea of Stars. As if the islands of the Maldives weren't already heaven on earth, come nighttime, Vardou Island reveals another mystical surprise. Glowing blue waves lapping the sandy shore like something out of a fantasy land. As the sun sets below the sea, Vardou Island's waters are taken over by a shimmering sight. They light up, a glittery spread of blue reflecting the sky. This island in particular is known for its amazing Sea of Stars, where the waters glow neon blue at night. A tiny microorganism, a phytoplankton called dinoflagellates, reacts with oxygen under the water and is triggered to produce this blue glow when it feels movement. Therefore, waters where these small phytoplankton live sparkle as if mirroring or capturing the stars. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch up my next video.